Welcome everyone to the Q&A session for our upcoming course, Advanced Radical Energy Medicine, the 12-week journey to expand your personalized energetic toolkit to break free of unhealthy influences and restore vitality. I'm Lisa Bonise, and I'm really excited to be hosting this Q&A conversation for the Shift Network with Cyndi Dale to address questions about her upcoming 12-week course, Advanced Radical Energy Medicine, which begins Tuesday, November 10th. And a little later, I'll explain how you can participate in the course. If you can't attend the live sessions, no worries, it'll work out. But first, I want to introduce our guest. Cyndi Dale is an internationally renowned author, speaker, intuitive healer, and business consultant, and author of 27 groundbreaking books on chakras and intuition. She continues to hone her ability to help people discover their essential selves so they can make healthy and positive changes in their lives. And in just a few minutes, we're going to open up for questions. But first, I want to welcome Cyndi, who's going to begin our time together by leading us in an opening meditation. Welcome, Cyndi. It's so good to see you again.
Thank you, Lisa. And hi, everybody. I'm thrilled to be here. And I'm excited to answer any of the questions that we can get to. I love going into that kind of depth. And it always helps me to teach a class to know what kind of questions people have about a class as well. So let's gather together and bring ourselves into a grounded and present state. Just take a couple deep breaths and let's let go of this week. How about that? All the rocking and rolling and stress and tension, because we know that the point of change, the point of beingness is always here, and it's always now, and it's within us, not only around us. So as you breathe, acknowledge the essence, the spirit that you really are, that you've always been, that spark of divinity that you're here to share with the world and to have shared with as well. Feel the presence of the guides around you, all of those who are here on Facebook Live together, but also those that are invisible, that are constantly supporting and loving you, sending healing and manifesting assistance. And then finally connect in with whatever it is you call your higher power, the oneness, or the presence. And as you allow yourself to be breathed into that presence, bring into you any of the elements that you need to be fully yourself, fully present, and fully healthy and hopeful right now. Elements like fire and earth, the air, water, metal, wood, maybe even stone, light, or sound, or ether. You don't need to know the name of what you need, because what you require is just being given to you to fill up with and to be surrounded by. Breathe again, be present, and let us begin.
All right, perfect. Thank you so much, Cyndi. For those of you who are just joining us, we'll have the rest of our time together to dive into questions for Cyndi as we prepare for her upcoming course. Again, it's called Advanced Radical Energy Medicine, which begins Tuesday, November 10th. And if you want to check out the website and learn more about the 12-week course, you can visit radicalenergymedicine.com to see the full description. So let's go ahead and get into some questions. It's always fun to talk to Cyndi. If you've got a question, go ahead and type them in, and I'll be happy to read them aloud, pass them along. And we've got sort of a foundational question, a couple different people, because you mentioned sort of tapping into your guides. A couple people are wondering, what's the most efficient way to awaken my own intuitive abilities and access my guides?
Well, first of all, it's helpful to know that there are four main types of intuition. There's what I would call physically empathic, where you sense information in your body or through your feelings. There's a spiritual empathy, where you just know things. If you're one of those people, you know who you are. Darn hard to prove what you know, but you're conscious. There's verbal intuition, where you might hear messages, whether in the environment or inside yourself. And there's visual intuition, where you get pictures. You can see them with your physical eyes, maybe even on a billboard, or as images inside of yourself. So get a sense of which form of intuition works best for you. And then you know what I do? Ask the guides to reach out to you. I'm in a human body, as I like to tell them. Look, you guys are bigger, you're stronger, you have more energy available. You get messages to me and use any of those four means of intuition, and I'll pay attention. So ask them to do the work and you pay attention.
All right. I like that. It's a very simple approach. Thank you for that.
It actually works.
That's good, because I spent many years of my own wondering, why aren't they talking to me? Where are they? Everybody supposedly has these guides and I don't. So that's very helpful. Thank you for that. This next question is from somebody who obviously saw your conversation with Stephen Dinan, where you talked about the gamma brainwave patterns, et cetera. So I'll ask the question, but I'm wondering, for those who didn't catch that conversation, maybe you can first start out with a little bit of explanation. The question from Andrew is, I followed your instructions on attaining gamma brainwave patterns. Do you know about any scientific data for this method?
Yes, great question. I could go on for the whole hour. I promise I won't. Gamma brain waves are a very high and fast brainwave. Brainwaves are produced in the brain. It has to do with the electrical activity between the neurons. And there's really slow brainwaves, like when you're sleeping, and there's ones even slower than that hold your stress. Gamma is one of the higher brainwaves. It's the one we most know about that's really fast. It cycles 30 to 35 times per second, or cycles per second, and even faster. So those who most regularly attain a gamma brainwave are your gurus, your shamans, your healers. And so in the class, we'll be really working with at least a few courses in, few modules in, with achieving not just that brain wave, but holding it throughout our body and allowing it to define our consciousness or our way of understanding ourselves. Why not know ourselves to be the guru that we potentially can be? Great science resources. There's lots of science on gamma brain waves. Science Data is one site, has a lot of studies. Scientific American is terrific. Science Digest. Different kind of science organizations, I think, are the most credible. And if I can give another piece of advice, you might also want to look up Lambda, LAMBDA brainwaves. We achieve these through gamma. So we'll be working with those in the class, but they're super fast. They're like 200 cycles per second and higher. We want to stay in our body. So we're going to work with gamma in a way that's very grounding and real. You can walk around, clean your house, and be a guru at the same time. So I just want to reassure all of you about that.
All right, thank you. Here's a question from Joanna, who's wondering if the protocol that you're teaching, is it something that they can use on others, or is it just for healing oneself?
Great question. Absolutely both. Everything you can do on yourself, you can do for others. The technique that I taught in the first 7 modules, we're going to be reviewing in our first class together. In fact, we did it here, spirit to spirit to spirit, where you get interconnected, gives you the power to request healing or manifesting assistance for somebody else in a way that never violates their boundaries and allows their higher self, to kind of decide what they're going to do with the energy healing that's sent to them.
Okay, thank you. This next question from Nicole is somebody who obviously also watched your conversation with Stephen Dinan. Nicole says you talked about the 9th chakra in the introductory webinar. However, the course description also talks about the 10th chakra. What does it do and how do we access it? Nicole would like a little bit of a sneak peek.
Oh, I will give it to you. You all will love the 10th chakra. Some systems call it the Earth Star. I have a slightly more expanded understanding of the 10th chakra than that kind of language. Earth Star referencing the idea that there is an energy center underneath your feet in the ground. That's your 10th chakra. And it's extraordinarily vital for your well-being. That chakra contains your genetics, your family ancestry, what you've inherited, what you've brought in from your soul, manages your bone marrow, and you know what? It connects you to the earth and to the cosmos. So we're going to work with the 10th chakra to bring in the energies from spirits of nature that, and those spirits just love to help us. They'll be available for us while we're working with our 10th chakra to provide healing energies, support in manifesting, and even guidance. So we're going to work the 10th chakra in a way that's very encouraging toward our growth. And again, we can do some of this with other people too.
All right. And while we're on the topic of chakras, let's go to a question here from Isabel, who says, why are my visions in black and white and not in color? Does that mean that my third eye is not fully opened?
No, I love this question. I'm so glad somebody asked this. I am very visual. I am very clairvoyant. I get a lot of colored pictures. And sometimes people go, well, how come I can't? And it's like, because there's other ways to get pictures and many chakras through which you can get different kinds of images. So you are a 7th chakra clairvoyant. 7th chakra is right on top of the head, connected to the pineal gland in my system. It's typically seen as white. And when you get visions through this 7th chakra, they're called prophetic visions. Guess what? They come in black, white, and sometimes gray. So we will further our exploration of using that particular chakra, everybody will, to get visions that are they're not technicolor, they're like Kansas, know what to do with those images. And we're also going to be doing healing work through the 7th chakra. So I'm so excited that you brought that question up. Anybody can learn to use that chakra. You just have to know how to do it. And so we'll cover that.
All right. Here's another topic entirely. There are a few people here who are sort of asking if you can psychically tap into them and give them a prediction right here and now. And obviously, you're not able to do that when we're while we're live here. But I'm wondering, can you talk about psychic predictive abilities? How can we even access our own answers?
Yeah, and it's a complicated topic. I like to tell people when it comes to predicting or foretelling the future, there are 3 broad ranges of potential events that you might get attuned to. You might see them, you might sense them, you might get messages about them. You don't have to just see them. It's not just the crystal ball thing. There are possibilities. There's nearly unlimited numbers of possibilities, and sometimes we tune into those and we can get overwhelmed and not know what's most possible or not. There are probabilities. These are futures that are probably going to enhance. Maybe, we have to make the right decision before something's going to happen. Perhaps other people have to go along with our plan. And then there are destiny points. Destiny points are locked in stone. There's not that many destiny points, but they do exist. Years and years ago, I did a reading for a man. He did not think anything I told him was going to come true because it was so off the wall. I said, I don't know. These images seem very clear. The clearer the images or your sense of things, the more likely they're probably going to happen. And he was living in Connecticut and he was a chef and he, was with his partner at the time. And I said, well, you and your partner are going to get married. He had a male partner. You're going to live in London. You're going to get an MBA. And in a few years, you're going to find yourself in Manhattan on a ferry going to work saying, I hate my job. He goes, this is Looney Tunes. He called me several years later. He goes, my partner got a job in London. I went to the School of Business there. I got an MBA. We moved back to New York. We were able to get married. I found myself on a ferry going, I hate my job. And I thought, I better call that woman back. So sometimes you can get it right down the middle. And you need to be aware that there are possibilities and probabilities, and things just really move around because you still have to make the decisions that are going to have you walk the walk to even get to a destiny point. So I hope that's helpful.
Yeah, I hope so too. It's a difficult spot to place you in right here and now, asking for readings. But thank you for addressing the topic. Um, Here's a question from Kanwal, who says, developing chakras in energy medicine is a deeply sensitive dive. How much ritual safety will be ensured during practices to ensure there's enough space and support for integration?
That's a good question. I kind of hear two questions inside of that. With the word ritual safety, I want to emphasize boundaries. Boundaries are really, really important. The two main techniques we work with, which is spirit to spirit and the use of absolute scalar waves, which I also call streams of grace, provide the boundaries necessary that we don't plunder and blunder into somebody's, kind of birthright or right to make their own decisions, as well as for ourselves. So the major proprietary techniques that we use are all about safety, 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 and that lets us be more powerful because there's checks and balances, just like there's supposed to be in every government. There's checks and balances. Integration is really done during the week in between the modules. Plus, we've built in some normal kind of breaks. We've got Thanksgiving, from American point of view, we've got Thanksgiving week off. We've got some breaks over the holidays. So you have plenty of time to work with the material. Let me say this. I'm an information person. I love presenting information. Even more during our calls, I love doing demonstrations and practice meditations. So you can use the information on the call and right away in between. You never have to learn everything that's presented. There's handouts, there's resource material. You can deep dive, you can shallow dive. Go at your own pace because you have these materials forever and keep going back to them as well. So sometimes people just stay with 20% of the material and it's a beautiful outcome. Immediately they get shifts and changes. Some people will return to the material 5 times during the week. I know lots of us have jobs, so you can go back to it for months and months on end too.
All right, thank you. Speaking of jobs, here's somebody who asks what seems to be an unrelated question, but I think it's very germane here. Anastasia says, last March, my dear friend lost her job, and this turned into losing her apartment and her leased car. Many people are in the same situation. You know what we're talking about here. How can we manifest paying jobs and financial abundance when jobs are scarce? How can the energy techniques help us with the reality of the physical world where it's become very hard to survive for so many?
I'm very happy that topic is being brought up. I know because of the pandemic and other issues, there's so many shattered lives in terms of security, money, jobs, even health. The chakra system is about and the use of your chakra system, my use of the chakra system is always aimed at helping people have better real lives, not just getting guidance that helps you know what you used to do on Pluto, if you had a past life on Pluto, which can be very entertaining and maybe even instructional. But I'm a day-to-day person. I'm a mom. I have dogs. I have a house. I have to pay the bills. I've been a single mother and I've had to pay all the bills forever. And I work with real people with and without jobs, with those, they're not ordinary concerns, they're extraordinary concerns. So everything I do, everything I teach in terms of energetic techniques or the use of your intuition or the application of your intuition is how to enable a better everyday life, which includes having a job and making money and being in a home environment that, first of all, having like a setting, having a home environment. So I think everything but 1 or 2 of our 12 modules can really be devoted to a concern like making money, getting a job, getting back on your feet, because the techniques can be adapted to whatever it is you want to achieve. We're going to be doing some psychic surgery for microbes. That's not really going to be about that primary concern. unless you've got a physical challenge, but you can use the same psychic surgery technique to operate through your energy centers to make manifest what you need. You can activate your ability in your 10th chakra, which we talked about, to connect to the nature spirits to help you with your primal security needs. You can do the same with absolutely any other technique that we're using. So I'm a real person. In my real life, use these techniques to help me know what to do, how to do it, and frankly, keep the money flowing in. I mean, not in a way that uses people, but in a way that supports me, my family, and the people I work with.
Right. Yeah. Thank you. That's got a really nice energy to it. I think that's going to be very helpful to the person who asked the question. Now, on a similar note, here's Marie, who says, I live in a house with toxic people all around me. My in-laws, they're just so good at sucking up all my energy. With them around, it feels like a dark cloud or an energy is covering me and my children, and I can't leave due to my husband not wanting to leave their house. How do I combat this with energy medicine?
You'll get a lot of techniques. I think there's a lot of people out there nodding their heads. And whether or not you're in a toxic home environment, maybe you have a toxic work environment, or those family get-togethers that are more rare now, but they're still happening. So the first module, you'll learn how to strengthen your primary chakra. Better boundaries, you're going to be able to be more of who you are. Second get together, we're working with vision. We're working with 4 very cool Egyptian colors, which again will clear other people's energies out of you, help you with boundaries. One of our sessions, the 4th, we're going to learn how to move from dark to light and work with any energetic hanger-oners or energetics that can make us vulnerable to other people's negative energies. Very helpful when it comes to toxic people or toxic energies altogether. So a lot of the techniques are going to help you just be more of who you are, strengthen those boundaries, be calm, be centered, be aligned, clear out what's not yours. And it's surprising as you work with these techniques how every aspect of your life improves, because a lot of times we can't vote the goodness into the outer parts of our lives. We have to vote it inside out.
Yeah, makes sense. Thank you. And you started to touch on this. This is a question from Tula, who again watched your conversation with Stephen. She says, I like that your approach to entities is matter of fact and not spooky. With that said, how can I tell if I have an entity attachment or if what I'm dealing with is just a personal issue?
Well, I mean, sometimes we don't know, do we? We'll talk about that when we're working with that 4th module too. Here's what I would say. If you've always had a sense that there's been an entity, there's probably an entity. If you get some of the classic signs of an entity, you hear knocks in the night, but they scare you, you get nightmares and they don't seem to have a deep psychological meaning, something's bothering you, there's a part of your body that no matter how you work on it seems tight or congested, or something doesn't feel right, or you feel like there's a dark cloud around you, or you have an issue that you have been in therapy for, whatever your thing for therapy is, and it's not clearing, it could very well be an entity or a dark force. I frequently find entities or dark forces, so entities a being, and a force is more like a cloud, like a consciousness, involved in almost every major issue, major trauma, autoimmune disease, addiction, very tough relationship patterns. I am very matter of fact. They just are. I've had them. I've had to get rid of them. I've had to deal with them. I was helping my son not that long ago, my baseball pitcher son, and figured out that he had this sort of ancestral entity stuff like in front of him. I mean, he was actually pitching, and I was looking at a pitching machine. And once we cleared that out, his velocity, which is how fast the ball gets thrown, went up 8 miles an hour in the next throw. So these are, it's sort of what life is, and we deal with it, and then life improves. Those are a few clues, though.
Wow. I would have liked to have seen that pitching machine. That I love evidence like that. That's fascinating.
His pitching coach was blown away. What was fun was his pitching coach immediately, who, a lot of people don't always buy into this stuff. His pitching coach immediately started talking about these episodes with his son, in which his son could hear spirits and spooks and ghosts. So, underneath every normal person is actually somebody who knows there's more to the world than you can see with your eyes.
Absolutely, definitely. Here's a question from Rebecca, who says, I have been instructed by a voice to rub my mother-in-law's feet, and I hummed to help her stop shivering, and it worked. Do I have healing skills?
Yes. Yes, you do. Beautiful, amazing healing skills. I would suggest the voice, whatever, very positive guidance or connectivity, whether it's your higher power or it's a guide instructing you, was probably kind of moving you down the path of developing your healing skills as well. So beautiful job. I'm really glad you listened. I'm sure your mother-in-law was too.
Yeah, I bet. So Soraya wants to know, what's the easiest way to figure out what is our own individual gift or gifts?
It's, so it's easiest if you just look backward in time. So I talked about the four main types of intuition. There's physical empathy, which includes being able to connect in through your body or feelings to what's happening outside of you. There's spiritual empathy, which gives you the sense of just being very aware or conscious, sort of like the wise man or woman, wise person. There's verbal gifts, which are verbal. And there's visual gifts, which allow kind of that aesthetic or pictures. And so your gifts are going to be oriented toward how you meet the world. If you're really, really physical and that's how you get your messages in everyday life, that's probably the typing of intuitive or healing powers that you have. If you're visual in your everyday life, you're probably going to be really appropriately able to develop the clairvoyant or the clear seeing gifts. So look at who you've been and look at who you are. During our first module, we will be talking about the different chakras and what gifts lie within each of the 11 basic chakras. The 12th is really special. You all have the special gifts. And so that's going to also help you more fine tune and hone in on, I'm an emotional empath, or I'm really a mental empath, or I'm really good at healing, or I'm really excellent with communicating, or I have all the gifts, like that's a big one. You can have those too. So I love the chakras to help hone in on the individual preferences or capabilities. But those four broad categories can give you a starting place. Just pay attention to who you are and how you perceive the world and how you make decisions.
All right. So for those of you who are just joining us, we're here with Cyndi Dale learning about her upcoming course, Advanced Radical Energy Medicine, which begins Tuesday, November 10th. And you can log on to radicalenergymedicine.com for all the details and to register. So Cyndi, while we're on the topic of our own individual gifts, et cetera, we've got a question here. How would you summarize your gifts and what skills or gifts do I need before joining your advanced course?
Well, you don't need any skills or gifts to join the advanced course. I know we're using the word advanced, and you will get the 7 modules from the beginning class also, which will be of great joy and kind of introduce you to a lot of the techniques. But you can just join right away with the advanced class and get yourself going, because I love giving data and explaining. So first module in the advanced, we're going to talk about the different gifts, the different chakras. You'll get pictures, you'll get great write-ups, and you'll have a quiz that's left over from the first modules. So you'll just start right in to figure out, even pencil and paper, what your abilities might. I am 8th chakra person. I'm going to tell you what I am. 8th chakra is the mystic, and nobody asked that during the first set of classes, which is sort of interesting. So I'm really strong in the shaman or the mystical chakra that's above the head. It also locks into the body in the thymus. So I can use clairaudience, which is hearing, clairvoyance, which is seeing, knowing, physicality, etc. I decided, as I tell 8th chakra mystics to do, to pick a chakra to operate with, though, because it's way too hard to get data from all levels of supernatural and everyday realms. So I operate in my everyday life in my first chakra. This is all a new language for some of you. You'll learn it in the first up module. First chakra, which is in the hips, which is physical. So I go through life very physically, very normally. I listen to my body. If my body wants to eat something, I eat it. If I want to move, I move. If I get a bad feeling in my body about a certain situation, I get out of it. And so you'll gain really practical ways to be the gifted person that you are in your intuitive world and also in your everyday life too.
Okay, thank you. Now, here's again another topic entirely. Debbie wants to know what can you say about grace scalar waves, and can you do shadow work with the absolute scalar waves?
Yes, you can. So for those of you for whom this concept is new, and not that many people in the everyday world has even heard the phrase scalar waves. Scalar waves are a really unusual, extraordinarily powerful wave of energy. They're lightning fast. They move faster than the speed of light. Real science says this. They pass through objects, they carry information, and so they can make miraculous changes kind of with your conscious direction. The word absolute in there is a concept that we'll further explore in the advanced class. There's different kinds of light in this world. Most of us think about electromagnetic light, or the when you turn on the light bulb, there's electrical energy, and we give off electromagnetic radiation. But there's a type of light that's very pure, and I equate it with grace, which to me is love in motion. So we will, every session, it's very easy to do this, be calling on absolute scalar waves or the power of grace, which can do and will do anything. They go directly to the self or to a person to produce the highest level of change. And it's pretty much my go-to healing and manifesting energy. So again, that's a little bit about what they are. And yes, you can use them in any endeavor.
Okay, good enough. So here's a question from Miriam, who wants to know, can we use the Merkaba to ascend?
The Merkaba is interesting. It's a geographic structure. And it appeared in ancient times in a lot of sacred scripture, and even in the Old Testament. For those of you who are acquainted with, the Torah, the Quran, the Christian Old Testament, the Merkaba was actually like a traveling vehicle that enabled ascension. Ezekiel went up to the heavens in it in the Old Testament and other Judaic sort of storylines. And yes, we can, and you can use the shape of the Merkaba for ascension. The argument is about what does ascension mean? And some people will use techniques like that, maybe insert them in their energy field or visualize that certain shape, and their soul can travel within that shape to do, go somewhere else and visit and see sights, etc., in order to kind of bring yourselves out of reality. My goal is always to help people ascend through everyday reality so they get to live as the ascended beings, the guru self you already are, here in the body, in the feet, in your everyday life in a way that's safe and that's loving, and that really is undisturbed by disturbances. So that's the inclination that I have, and that we will be working from when we're together as well.
All right. So we're going to backtrack to a topic we've already discussed. This is from Ginger, who says, my house is full of spirits. They're not evil, but mischievous in nature. For example, I have one that turns on and off my bedroom light so it can be noticed. Could this be who's helping me to heal?
Yes. So, first of all, Ginger, I would suggest that you're probably a medium. That doesn't mean you need to let dead people into your body to speak through your body. Okay. We're going to talk about clairaudience or various forms of mediumship during our time together. But these are probably beings that adore you, that love you, that are helping you, that are supporting you. I have kind of a funny story about that myself. I one time had a woman come and visit me, and she worked with a lot of different spirits. So when she was staying at my house was just full of movement, things tipping over and, lamps turning on and off and this and that. And then at the very end of her stay, she looked at me and she said, those are the gnomes. I bring the gnomes with me wherever I go. And so she left, and there was a little bit more quiet in the house. My youngest son at the time had overheard this, and he said, Mommy, can you have the gnomes kind of come and play in my room at night? I go, well, we can ask them to. And that night, after he asked that, every toy that could make a noise went off in the middle of the night. They were very busy. So yes, Ginger, you probably have a whole house full of loving visitors. For all of you, know that you get to decide who's going to be in your house or not. If you enjoy the activity, that's great. You can also say, hey, when I'm sleeping, no noise. You can just make that declaration and have it be so also.
All right, good advice. Thank you. I'm looking at the clock. We have time for a few more questions, but before we take those, I'll go ahead and give a few details about the class itself. Once again, it's called Advanced Radical Energy Medicine, and this is going to be not just a life-changing, but a fun 12-week journey with Cyndi under her expert guidance, where you use the power of energy medicine and your chakras' extrasensory abilities to clear yourself of negativity, restore balance and vitality, and create your personalized energy medicine toolkit to address emotional, physical, and spiritual challenges. And the 12-week course takes place on Tuesdays at 1 p.m. Pacific, beginning Tuesday, November 10th. And as I mentioned earlier, if you can't join us live, that's fine. You won't miss any of the teachings because you'll receive audio and video recordings, transcripts, and all course handouts on your course homepage, and you get to keep them forever. That's not limited to just the 12 weeks of the course. Also, I want to remind everyone that we offer a no-risk money-back guarantee on all of our courses, giving you until December 1st, in this case, to make sure that you absolutely love it. I'm sure you will. As an added option, all participants are welcome to connect in a private Facebook community group so you can connect with one another. Also, Cyndi mentioned that she has the 7-week course that she taught before that, and because this intensive builds upon the core teachings from previous 7-module course, when you sign up for the full 12-week intensive, you will receive access to this powerful resource as well. And you can complete this material at your leisure, but it's better to begin before the new session starts if possible. Also, everyone who registers receives the Advanced Radical Energy Medicine bonus collection. First, you'll receive a video dialogue with Cyndi and Joanne Brown entitled Energetic Support for Disease and Infections. And next, you'll get an audio teaching from Cyndi called Working with Shapes. Then you'll receive an audio teaching from Cyndi entitled Energetic Boundaries, Working with Color. And when you register by midnight Pacific on Saturday, November 7th, you'll receive this extra gift. That is a video teaching from Cyndi called The Molecules of Joy, Activating Your True Self Biologically and Spiritually. Plus, you'll also receive the entire bonus collection that comes with the previous 7-week course. So, huge package of good stuff. Cyndi, before we get back into taking viewers' questions, what are you most looking forward to sharing in your advanced course?
I'm just so excited. I think I'm very excited to build toward gamma consciousness and to help us know ourselves as these really powerful beings. And absolutely every module will give you not only an energetic technique, but an application. I've said it, I'm very down to earth. I'm been a single mom forever. I need things to make a difference. I mean, if I'm going to buy, I really never buy equipment for my kitchen, but if I'm going to buy something for my house, it's got to be usable. It's got to be practical. It's got to improve my life. It's got to be something with which I can help other people as well. And so I just really want to share what I've been gathering in terms of ideas, techniques, concepts, learning, science, spirituality over at least 30 years. It's been a really long time, and offer it freely so that you can improve your life with these ideas and practices.
All right, sounds fun. I'm looking forward to it. Now, here's a question from Paula talking about one of the bonuses. Working with shapes sounds fascinating. Could you talk about this just a little bit?
Yes, absolutely. So everything in this world is really defined by shape, geometric patterns or geometric shapes. I mean, even illness is really about a template or a patterning. So in that particular offering, we explore the basic shapes like circles or spheres, triangles or pyramids, squares, etc., for what their meaning is. And then you learn how to apply those shapes for protection, for boundaries, for healing, for manifesting. Some of this information, in fact, I learned from two Siberian shaman who I studied with. They did their practice exclusively with shapes. For instance, figuring out if there was like a broken circle, kind of an energetic patterning between a person and somebody else, there was a broken relationship. So you could repair that shape and repair the relationship. Or if you wanted to get out of one, you just get rid of the circle. So there's some very interesting learnings and teachings from other cultures that go into that particular offering.
All right, great. Now, while we're sort of on the topic here, Tori wants to know, says there isn't much time between now and when the class starts, so I won't be able to complete the 7-week course before then, the one that comes along with this, if you didn't already take it. So she's asking, how will this affect my ability to participate in the advanced course?
Don't worry about it. You don't have to worry about it. So a lot of what's in the initial course is showing up again in this advanced course. So I will be explaining it. It'll be interesting for those of you who know it. It will be new but interesting for those of you who don't know it. Honestly, each module is standalone. What I've also done on your handouts is that there's information from the first 7 modules that I think is really important to know for one of the advanced modules. I've repeated it in the handouts and just put it in purple so that you know that it's a repeat. So I composed this advanced class in mind, knowing in mind, you're not going to be able to go do the first 7 modules if you haven't done them, before you do the advanced class. So everything's been designed as standalone. And that way you can go back and forth. You can do what you want, again, over months and months and months. So honestly, you really don't need to, have a concern there.
All right. That's so very helpful. Thank you for doing that. Now, we were talking about ascension a little bit ago, and Elizabeth is asking, how do we remain in an ascended state?
Oh, practice? Well, it's not so easy, is it? I'm sure we've all been working on it. These types of techniques are really helpful because basically, first of all, it's about knowing and understanding that's your natural state. All right. A long time ago, the Hopis talked about that in the first age, it's believed that we've had at least 4 different ages on this planet. We were in the ascended state, which is the natural state. We were at one with plants, animals, we could interact with them, and we were in alignment. We were all in what the Hopis called the blueprint. We were connected to our higher source, and we were connected to the earth. That is the natural state. That is the ascended state. So especially as we work toward this gamma consciousness, which follows the idea of being in natural alignment, once we feel it, once we know it, once we taste it, it's really a matter of just practicing it and giving permission for our higher power, our guides, and our own spirit to hold us in it. If you've figured it out, those of you who are on the beginning of this particular call, I let my guides do some work for me. I give permission for my higher power to work on me, to help me stay in an ascended state where I'm willing or not willing. So I rely on the help, which I will encourage all of us to do, because it's far easier to remain and be in an ascended state and just know when we're slipping, so we can easily get ourselves back in than doing it by ourselves.
All right. Thank you. Now, here's a question from William. Again, another topic entirely. He says, what are your thoughts on addictions? Is this something we can heal in ourselves without going through rehab?
It's a good question. It depends on who you are, and it depends on what the core issues are underneath an addiction. All right. I'm a long-term a student and attender of Al-Anon, of adult children of dysfunctional families, or those type of groups. I come from a very alcoholic background there, but for the grace of God, as they say in the 12-step programs, I would be an alcoholic too, but I've certainly had my addictions. So I still call in on meetings because it helps me frame my philosophy and keep me, kind of honest with myself. So having owned that about myself personally, I have also found it's very difficult for many, many people to actually achieve any sort of breakthrough on an addiction unless they use energy techniques. Now, this is me. I'm an energy worker, but I am for a reason. So we have spiritual issues over here, very loosely, physical issues over here, which can include, kind of emotional challenges and genetics and, a liver that's prone toward alcoholism or whatever it is. Energy work connects the two. It's a bridge. And I have found for most people I work with, without the bridge of energy, it's very hard to work through an addiction. It's hard to go to forgiveness. It's hard to break the patterns. And it's extraordinarily hard to get rid of what I believe to be the 80% of all causes of challenges that did not originate with us. And energy work helps us do that. Really important for addictions. Lots of times those cravings didn't originate with you. You're acting them out for something or someone else, maybe a dark energy, maybe family patterns. So it's really hard to get anywhere until we get that stuff out of the way. So I might have said more than you wanted to hear, but it's a hot topic for me. And I love energy medicine for addictions because of what I just shared.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. In fact, I've read in, we all have been reading for years and years. I've read in many different books that it's possible that addictions can be because of an entity or an ancestor or some sort of ghosty being who's sort of just right there behind you, just sort of sucking in the alcohol vibes, and they're getting their fix through you physically. What are your thoughts on that concept?
I find that 90% of the time. And typically when working with myself with addictive tendencies over the years or other people, almost always there's an entity, there's a force, there's an ancestral energy, there's an ancestral patterning that's propelling you into that craving and the shame cycle. So I'm cheating a little and giving you some of the data that we're going to cover in the class because it's so important to know this, that the reason that entities or dark forces or even sort of negative people, frankly, want to bother the living is because they want your energy. They want your life energy. They want your light. They're not willing to go get their own. They're not willing to deal with their own issues. They're not willing to go to the bigger light to, kind of see what needs to be transformed for themselves. And so if they can plague the living and make them feel shameful have them act out addictive tendencies, which create shame, create fear, create anger, create depression, create anxiety. They can then steal your extra energy and fuel themselves with it. And you're left feeling miserable about yourselves, when really a lot of the impetus and what's propelling you is coming from outside of yourself. You break those bondages, you can frequently get really far in breaking the bondage of an addiction or a craving pattern.
All right. Thank you for that. Again, another topic entirely. The questions are just coming in from all different directions.
I love them.
Here's one. Yeah, here's one from Lily who says, when I was a child, I could see the spirit of an Indian in my house. I had a very crazy childhood. I grew up to be a massage therapist and can feel spirits around. Have I closed down to seeing them now, or have they just changed in use for me?
Well, that's a great question. I would guess a little of both. When we're children, sometimes our gifts are more active because we have that heart of innocence, and sometimes we keep things to ourselves so we're not made fun of. And we hit frequently those teen years, and we know we have to fit in, we know we have to cope. And so our way of perceiving energetics, spirits, energies, colors, illnesses, etc., can kind of go down, or sort of get, kind of just shrunk when we go through teen years and maybe even into our 20s, where we just have to fit in and we have to make a living and we have to have friends and this and that, who think we're normal and whatever. So right now, Lily, you're a massage person and the spirits are helping you with your work. They might even be teaching you and training you and guiding you and, kind of reinforcing the beautiful gifts that you're already using. And so, you've got one way of understanding who they are right now. I would suggest you can open up how you used your intuition as a child in addition to what you're doing right now. I find that very commonly with people, that what they're doing now is gracious and lovely. As a child, maybe they had to repress those gifts, but they can be opened up again and brought into alignment for who you are in your present day profession and the present day person you are also.
All right. Here's a question from Oceana who says, is this course advanced for someone who is already a healer, a shamanic practitioner, and alchemist? And will you be teaching how to heal others as well?
Yes, we're talking about how to help heal others. In your sharing circles, these are the groups where you're put into groups afterwards. You practice on each other. Our 11th module is all about me providing some professional tips and how to do this and how to do that. Some of it very practical, some energetic, boundaries, etc. I do believe that it's advanced for advanced people. I tend to teach people who are new and advanced. And I can just say this from years and years of teaching, they all seem to benefit from the programs that I offer. It's mainly that I tell newer people, look, take what you want and leave the rest. And advanced people, like, go for it, dig into it, and, kind of go to the stars with the techniques like prophecy or the gamma consciousness or the spirit nature medicine. So it tends to span the globe. That I'm saying that because my students often say that to me.
All right, thank you. Now let's go to a question here from Jamie, who wants to know, is it possible for her daughter to be her guardian angel? She says, my daughter wants to know if she's my guardian angel, and she speaks with her angels and knows the difference between who she communicates with.
And here's an intuition. I'm not supposed to do psychic readings on things like this, but I would say absolutely. From an intuitive perspective, I think your daughter is that. And yes, it is possible. Of course, it's important that your daughter knows, she uses her own guardian angels and she doesn't need to be codependent, in relationship with mom and all those really important things we have to teach our kids no matter what. I'm still teaching my sons that I'm okay, guys. You don't have to caretake me. But it is very possible. And I'll share kind of a fun story around that. When my youngest was very little, maybe about 3 or something, he looked at me and he said, "Mom, do you remember that time I was the big brother and you were the little sister?" I go, "Well, not really. Tell me about it." And he goes, "I had to carry you everywhere and you were really heavy." And then he looked at me and he said, I really still know a lot more than you. I think I'm supposed to keep teaching you what I know." And he does. So I say the sky's the limit for these souls who are in our lives, and how very special. I do also believe that there are souls on this planet who have been angels. I have met them. I am not really one of those on that level. I believe for instance, my youngest son and my oldest son were both angels. In fact, when I was pregnant with my youngest son, he appeared as a being with wings and gave me his name. And my oldest did something like that too when I was in Copenhagen. So just to stretch our awareness of where we've all come from, let me offer that as well.
All right, great. Just a quick follow-up to, we were talking about addictions here, questions come in. How do you recognize what it is in you that makes you susceptible to having your energy taken from ancestors or negative people that might be causing addictions?
That's a good question. It can be complicated. The simple answer is it's going to be a wound. It's going to be a place of unworthiness. It's going to be a place you were victimized or traumatized. We never, ever blame ourselves for having been victimized, whether that occurrence was in this lifetime or other lifetimes or in between lives. We don't sign on to be traumatized. We don't sign on to be victimized. All right, I'm just going to make that blanket statement. But when we've got something that challenging, like entities invasion and addictive challenges, there's going to be a trauma, a wound, a place where we got hurt, and that's what we want to work to. The second thing I would add is if you find that wounding in self and you feel embarrassed because you're operating from it by listening to an entity, maybe even unconsciously, or acting it out through an addiction or some kind of negative pattern, please get yourself off the hook of the self-shaming, because all we're doing is trying to meet a need that we didn't get met when we were traumatized. So look for the need, look for the wound, and look for the need that maybe our behavior, even the engagement with an entity, is trying to meet. And it's just about meeting the need in a different way. So I hope you can all just even write that down, print it somewhere really simply. It will take the shame out of the process and exponentially increase the healing intensity and the quickness of the healing.
All right. Thank you so much for that one. We are just about out of time. This has been just a fascinating conversation as usual. I want to thank our viewers for being with us today and for all of your really interesting questions. Once again, Advanced Radical Energy Medicine begins Tuesday, November 10th, and you can visit radicalenergymedicine.com to learn more and to register. So, Cyndi, before we cut you loose, do you have any final words for our viewers?
I'm going to take advantage of our togetherness and again, just have each of us affirm our own spirit or essence, our helping spirits, the greater one, and to ask for whatever healing energies you need to come directly to you. So what better way to end than with the healing coming to you that your own greater self gets to decide what you're going to do with and in what timing. So I wish healing for each of us.
All right, beautiful. Thank you so much for that. And thank you, Cyndi, for spending some time with us today. It's always so fun to talk to you, and I appreciate you spending some Friday time with us. Thank you.
Thank you, Lisa. Thank you, everybody. It's been my joy.
And once again, I want to thank everyone who joined us today. On behalf of all of us at the Shift Network, I wish you well and look forward to having you on this course or perhaps another one in the future. Have a great day, everyone.